When I started my career, I didn't think twice about applying for a coveted graduate job at a top London PR agency. I responded to their ad in a national newspaper and was invited to attend a terrifying assessment day, which involved presenting to the board, a written exam and an observed roundtable debate. I got the job, beating hundreds of candidates in the process. I never felt entitled to be there. I always felt grateful and fortunate for the opportunity. But I didn't question my right to be there either. I knew I was an asset to that company. For the next 10 years, no matter where I worked, I felt that way, rarely daunted, always motivated to work hard, to gain new skills, to learn from seriously talented people. And then I became an entrepreneur, a business owner, and something inside me began to shift. The more successful our business became, eventually becoming the UK's largest independent digital agency, employing hundreds of people, the more my confidence began to wane. I started to experience imposter syndrome, strong feelings that I didn't belong among my entrepreneurial peers. It's pretty radical to experience feelings of not belonging inside your own company. We sold that company successfully a few years ago, and on paper you would say that I have had a dream career to date. But I know I have yet to reach my full potential because those feelings of not belonging in the entrepreneurial world held me back. And it turns out that this is a common experience for women and indeed many people who feel they are not obvious entrepreneur material. If we are to achieve greater diversity in business, it is in our best interest to fix this. So why does this happen? And how can we address it so that more people can achieve what they are capable of? We all need to belong. Belonging, to feel like an accepted member of a group, is an innate, primal human need. It's extremely powerful. It's why people stay in toxic relationships despite threats to their physical or mental health. And it's universal, experienced by all people in every culture, in every country. Our need to belong means we work hard to adapt our behaviour to fit in. And not belonging can lead to feelings of depression, anxiety, loneliness, even suicide. Last year, a little girl I know wound up at the doctor's with an irregular heartbeat after the trauma of being separated from her best friends when she went up a year at school. Eventually she settled, but for 2 months she had absolutely zero capacity for learning. She was hypervigilant, on high alert all the time. And that's because when you feel like you don't belong, you feel threatened. And when you are looking for potential threats all the time, it impairs your ability to think, to judge, and to solve problems. That's precisely what happened to me, which is such a waste when you consider a recent Better Up survey, which showed that when people felt like they belonged at work, they saw a 56% uplift in their performance. But for well-documented reasons, belonging in the workplace can be challenging for women and people from underrepresented groups. Compounding this problem in the entrepreneurial world is this mythology that's built up around entrepreneurship. That entrepreneurs are cut from different cloth, that you can't learn it, you're born with it, it's in your DNA. There's an entrenched stereotype. Traits like bold risk-taking, impatience, and single-mindedness are highly prized in the entrepreneurial world. I don't have those traits. My risk-taking is calculated, not bold. I've been known to procrastinate. I favour collaborative decision-making. This perceived gap between my skills, experience, and behaviour and the stereotype contributed to my feelings that I wasn't entrepreneur material. And this is frustrating because the stereotype is absolute BS. For instance, most of us do expect entrepreneurs to be risk takers, But Adam Grant wholly debunks this myth in his enlightening book Originals. He references a study of 5,000 Americans over 14 years, which showed that those less bullish entrepreneurs who hedged their bets and kept their day jobs when they started their businesses had 33% lower odds of failure than those more ballsy folk who quit on day one. This gap between fantasy and reality is contributing to a thumping great missed opportunity. According to the Alison Rose Review, there are 1.1 million missing female-founded businesses in the UK alone. This is bad news economically. £250 billion of value could be added to the economy if women started and scaled businesses to the same extent as men. This is bad news for society. Women can bring compassion and diverse thinking to the workplace, and in a world that desperately needs more ethical businesses, we know that women care about social impact. 40% of founders of social enterprises in the UK are women. That's twice the number of female founders than in the private sector. And it's bad news for women themselves. 1.1 million missing female-founded businesses means at least 1.1 million women are not currently making money on their own terms and not benefiting from this sense of agency and empowerment that comes with that. Valerie Stead, a researcher at Lancaster University, has found that female entrepreneurs adopt multiple strategies, often simultaneously, in an effort to belong. They mask their femininity, modelling those behavioural norms. They mask their identity as entrepreneurs, often getting men to front their businesses, particularly in male-dominated business environments. I saw this in action recently at a startup pitch to angel investors where, strikingly, the female CEO sat quietly while her male chair presented her business to the room. And they gain legitimacy and access to networks through a male co-founder, often adopting publicly supporting roles, which gives them a license to operate with fewer barriers. Reading this research was like looking in a mirror. And what struck me most about it was just how exhausting it all is. Like all people who don't fit a stereotype, many female entrepreneurs can't just be themselves. And trying to be a different version of themselves and trying to adapt their behaviour to fit in takes huge effort. Cast your mind back to the little girl who couldn't learn because all she was doing was scanning for threats. Now imagine all these women and all that emotional and cognitive energy they're expending trying to belong to the entrepreneurial community. What impact is that having on their potential? How is that affecting their performance? How exhausted are they? Feeling like they don't belong in the entrepreneurial world is why women don't start businesses, it's why they don't scale businesses to the same extent as men, and it's why they have mental health issues along the way. I know because I've been there. Now, this is undeniably complex, and change requires a seismic shift in society's expectations around entrepreneurship and the role that women play in business and domestically. It will take decades for the stereotypes to evolve. But we don't have to wait for this change to happen. There's lots we can do to promote our own sense of belonging. Building your own sense of belonging takes active effort and patience, but it is worth it. Remember that Better Up study. You can enhance your performance by 56%. In her study, Stead concludes, if a woman's identification as an entrepreneur is constrained, then her ability to belong to a business or an entrepreneurial community is compromised. Having a strong sense of identity is essential for belonging, so we need to work on our own identity as entrepreneurs. This starts with throwing away your perceptions of what an entrepreneur is. If it helps, don't call yourself an entrepreneur. Call yourself a founder or a business owner if that feels more like you. Entrepreneurs, like human beings, come in all shapes and sizes. The role models that mostly originate from Silicon Valley represent just a tiny sliver of the entrepreneurial community. Your traits may be different to theirs, but they do not disqualify you from entrepreneurship. There are as many ways to start and grow a business as there are attitudes to risk or degrees of personal ambition. You may feel that you're not confident enough to go for it. According to the Rose Review, only 39% of women feel confident in their capabilities to grow a business, compared to 55% of men. This is a perceived gap in ability rather than an actual gap in skill sets. And this insight helps me have a word with myself when I'm feeling daunted. So do the work on yourself, get comfortable with who you are as an entrepreneur. Then go and find some allies. Find other people with whom you can connect. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of this. If you find you are expending vast amounts of emotional and cognitive energy trying to belong to a group where you are an outsider, then stop and seek belonging elsewhere. Find other female entrepreneurs or people of any gender or background who share the same values, personality traits, industry sectors, or professional interests as you. Find people that work for you. Many women say they lack professional networks, and this is a real barrier to starting a business. I say start your own. Just reach out to one person with whom you share common ground. Everyone can find one person, and grow your network from there. I started a women's network during that challenging time in my career when my feelings of not belonging were particularly acute. I started it for purely professional reasons, but through it I found sisterhood, which helped me cope with the everyday challenges I was experiencing. It's made me more resilient. I'm better able to compete because those women are my team. Remember, if you hide away in isolation doing your own thing, you're potentially denying someone else the opportunity to form an alliance that could make a massive difference to their success. And this leads me to my final point. If you have already founded a business, please share your story. Own it. Tell it how it is. Each time you do, you reaffirm who you are and you become an example for others to follow. You are the role models that we all need to see. Feeling like we belong is crucial to realising our entrepreneurial potential. We can build our own sense of belonging by embracing our unique style of entrepreneurship, finding allies and sharing our authentic stories. Imagine you are a female entrepreneur at the top of your game, challenging the entrepreneurial status quo. Now multiply you by 1.1 million. That is a powerful force for change. And that's why I think this is an idea worth sharing. Thank you.